And so we are in a very, very similar situation here. But worse. And what I consider to be worse is the quality of the consciousness and the energy of the people in this country. We used to be the most hardworking, self-sufficient, freedom-loving, honest people in the whole country, in the whole world.
And we're making generalizations. We're not saying everybody's bad.
Yeah, right.
It's just that you go out there, we're a lot of demonic goblin people. I mean, there are a lot of really evil people.
And I'm glad sometimes, in talking about this stuff, there are so many good people.
We've aborted 51 million babies.
And
the CPS kidnaps 1 million kids a year.
If you take a look at the situation...
We got a break, George. We're going to come back and go over this, get into the flu, get into the police state, U.S. military employees counterinsurgency strategy in California City. Stay with us. I'm going to say today, first-time callers. We're going to wipe the phone board right now or go through the calls and ask if they're first-time callers because I want to give some new people a chance. 1-800-259-9231. George, you were trying to make a point before we went to break, but I wanted to make this point. It's a double-edged sword. Not only for 15 years have I been speaking out, or 14 years on air, you 18 or more, and many others for decades, like Ron Paul, 30-plus years. It takes time to do this. The globalists love to give us an instant gratification society where we expect everything instantly, but they understand the power of taking their time. So that's why we need to counter them with that, knowing that we're not going to see instant results when we do something. It takes time to go out and bounce around and grow. It's like seeds. It's like growing a crop.
Right. Absolutely. And the question is that every one of us has a choice in front of us. We all have a choice. Do we actually believe that freedom and sovereignty and the highest values of the Constitution are something that are positive for our nation, for our community, for our families, and for ourselves? And most people will go, oh, yeah, of course it is. But is this something that is freedom and sovereignty for ourselves and in the coming future important?
Because you and Jaron, the head producer, were talking during the break. He was saying, all his friends know the wars are for money. Everybody knows the banks are raping us. Well, we shouldn't just take this like a crack whore being beaten.
Exactly. And this is part of the massive, massive mind control. And this is just not words, is that the Illuminati or the power elite or whatever you want to call these rascals have created the most amazing and the most subtle mind control at every different level: physical, emotional, spiritual, electronic, at all different levels, to interrupt our chakra system, to interrupt our endocrine system, to interrupt the way that we as human beings are able to intellectually process information.
And that's what all the globalists, when we cover this in Endgame, they admit they're poisoning us, they're poisoning our food and water to make us more easily controlled.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, in 1942 through 1945, both Uncle Adolf Hitler and Uncle Joseph Stalin were putting fluoride into their concentration camps because fluoride is a thyroid inhibitor.
And that's in a Pulitzer Prize-winning book. That came out in Nuremberg. That is not a conspiracy.
Of course. This is fact. And it's been fact for 50 years.
And they do it here, and the local media likes to laugh and feel like they're part of the establishment. And even though we've got probably 100,000 Austinites awake, and we're all over the country, we can't get it out of our water.
Yeah, and so massive amounts of fluoride. In Florida, they started putting in the water in the late 1880s because the aluminum industry had nowhere to put their toxic waste, and they cooked up these false studies to show that it would protect teeth, which is absolute BS. And every independent study has shown that fluoride does not protect teeth. And what's really important, of all the water that goes through the city water, less than 0.5% of the water that goes through the taps is actually taken in used for drinking water. And so this whole concept is absolutely silly. So let's say that fluoride really did help tooth decay, which it does not. There's better ways, topical ways of using it.
It gives you fluorosis. It causes bone cancer. But let's just say it's good. Why don't they say do it topically? No, we're going to put it in the water.
Because
now they're using it as a pesticide on crops.
And for years...
It kills bugs, but we're going to drink it.
And for years and years and years, back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, the number one ingredient in rat poison was fluoride. And so...
Well, you can still buy it where it says fluoride on the back.
It's
Decon rat poison.
And so not only are we interrupting our thyroid, because all the endocrine system, and if you hear the concepts of chakras, the way human beings connect within their own conscious development.
The electrical system in the body.
Exactly. And our pituitary is being messed up with aspartame. The chemtrails are coming in. And
MSG, mercury, and what about the media saying there's no mercury in the flu shot when it's on the insert?
It's thimerosal, which is even more toxic than mercury is. I mean, they changed the name.
It's a hyper form of mercury.
It's a hyper form of mercury, and the second most toxic element on the charts after plutonium and uranium is mercury. And what mercury does is it inhibits the ability of the synapse to send messages. And so when people start getting mercury in their system, which almost every person does now at different degrees, you start having larger percentage of ADD, attention deficit disorder, and
obesity. Stay there. We're coming back. Yes. Long segment. We're going to cover it all. George Humphrey is our guest. Stay with us. By the way, I want to just point out that he has made several documentary films and written a bunch of books. 911, The Great Illusion by George Humphrey is an easy, quick read. It's a color booklet full of photographs and diagrams and graphics. This is one of the best books, and we sell these right at cost. I mean, these are super inexpensive. I forget what they are, like $5, $4 or something. We've got his film, 911, The Great Illusion. It's excellent. So, again, it's all available at Infowars.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. He's also a big part of our new film, Fall of the Republic. And here's some posters for you, George.
Well, thank you very much. And as I told you, I'm going to frame this rascal. It's beautiful, and put it in my office. And again, I was in the Obama Deception and enjoyed that. And the Obama Deception, the quality of the production was incredible. And the Fall of the Republic is the professionalism that this is presented in is even better. So, clearly I'm biased because I'm in the movie, but it's worthwhile.
Well, you do a great job breaking it down. So please visit the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. On the subject of militarization of police, they're everywhere. They're giving people tickets for no reason. They're taking people's kids without due process. The CPS, the taxes, the bureaucracy, the state taxes, the international taxes. California and Oregon passing carbon taxes, the carbon tax. I have an article here from PrisonPlanet.com that has links to mainstream news, the Washington Post. U.S. military employs counterinsurgency strategy in California City. Former Special Forces colonel says violence hit town is a laboratory as Washington Post advocates nationwide implementation of troops on the streets in America. This is really happening. I mean, this is real bona fide tyranny. Your take on that?
Well, as they say, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this is just a fact of life. And as the power elite, those who are in separation consciousness, those who are in fear consciousness, realize that the internet and the consciousness of the people is increasing more and more, and the people like Alex Jones and myself and Paul Craig Roberts and the hundreds of thousands of other patriots around the country who are working for a better, freer, sovereign nation and world right now are getting the message out, and getting the message out very effectively. These people are freaking out, and the first thing that they think of is getting a bigger stick, trying to knock us down, trying to hit us, trying to control us. And, of course, the police departments are the main place. Now, most of the cops don't know what's going on. Now, when I was a city council member, we still had peace officers. We had peace officers. And we had policemen that were there for the people of Austin. And as a matter of fact, it wasn't that long ago that police officers and peace officers wore blue and the sheriffs wore brown. And now they're all in black. I see that Maryland is just, not Maryland, but Massachusetts, which is supposed to be the home of the most liberal people in the country now, have got all their police officers and all black.
And they were in the news. The police chief said this is to intimidate
Yes,
you.
and it's like the Praetorian Guard. And again, history tends to repeat itself. And just like the Caesar, when it went from a republic to an empire, they created the Praetorian Guard. And the Praetorian Guard, of course, all wore all black. And that is a psychological way to create fear. And all of this is a choice between fear and love, between separation and coming together. And this, as I've said 1,000 times, this is bigger than just an economic or a political or a cultural war. This is a time for each and every one of us to make a choice. It's a time of spiritual choice, whether we're going to live in unity consciousness and cooperation and be sovereign and free and first of all, love ourselves and our family and our world and the good things that government can bring, such as the Constitution, or whether we're going to close our eyes